India has just announced its new education policy or NEP 2020, which has come after a gap of 34 years. The last education policy was formulated by the Rajiv Gandhi government in 1986. Now, this video editorial, folks, is aimed at decoding this policy and narrating to you in simple terms what are the objectives of this policy. I am Rajiv Sharma. Now the details. Well, first of all, a major difference or what differentiates NEP 2020 from the previous education policies is that the current system would be entailing students taking exams in grades 3, 5 and 8. Of course, that doesn't mean that the board exams will be done away with. The board exams of class 10 and class 12, they will be held. But another reform comes in board exams also. Now, the focus will be on objective and as well as prescriptive questions, wherein the students' acumen will be tested, not memorization skills. So, and also the class 10 and class 12 board exams will be downvalued. And of course, these exams, there will be multiple options, at least 2 shots a student will have to improve upon his or her grades for the board exams of class 10 and class 12. But the major difference is that it comes with a inherent policy wherein Indian educational institutions will be allowed to have their campuses abroad. And vice versa, foreign educational institutions will be allowed to set up their campuses here. Another thing is the focus on higher education. A very important reform is related to GER. That is the gross enrollment ratio, which is currently standing at 26.5%, and the government aims at taking it to 50% by 2035, that is in 15 years. Or in other words, whatever India has accumulated, India has reached thus far of GER of 26.5% in 70 years. So it will be almost adding that much in 15 years. It is a tough call, but doable if the policy, the NEP 2020 is implemented properly. And states also cooperate with the center. Now, I was talking about the higher education. Higher education, so far what was happening was that, as we know, that India has a system of 4 years of undergraduate course and 2 years of postgraduate. Now, this again will be flexible. Students will be having exit options. For example, they can finish undergraduation in 3 years. If they want, they can go up to the 4th year. So that is, if a student takes up a job, he or she can get back to this course in the 4th year after a gap, as far as undergraduate courses are concerned. Now, look at the postgraduate courses. Now the postgraduate courses will be 1 year under the new policy. This is actually aligning it with most European countries' educational system, higher education system. Mostly in European countries, the post-graduation is of 1 year only. Well, unlike US post-graduation is 2 years. But what this new policy will do, that it will encourage Indian students to go to Europe for further studies, higher studies, and also will encourage European students to come to India, because now there will be no issues. Because otherwise, what was happening, that there, if a student, suppose an Indian student registers himself or herself in a UK college, and he or she returns here after doing 1 year of post graduation, then that student was, his or her degree was not really acceptable, because in India the post graduation system of 2 years does not allow, the acceptability quotient is not there. Now this problem will be tackled with this policy. Now let me come to the relevance of GER, the gross enrollment ratio. Let me quote some figures from the Ministry of Human Resource Development, which has now been renamed Education Ministry. Simple name. Earlier it was known only as Education Ministry. Now we have gone back to that name, that nomenclature, Education Ministry. That heavy sounding name HRD, which was done by the Congress government, it has been done away with, and rightly so. Now let me give some figures from the HRD ministry. Friends, do you know how many colleges are there, how many universities are there in India, how many schools? For example, the number of universities in India is 993. The number of colleges in India is 39,931. And the number of standalone institutions is 10,725. Now, if you come to the school level, there are 1.5 million schools in India. More than half of that are government-owned, government schools. That is, actual ratio is 52.5% students are in the government schools. Rest 47.5% are in private schools, private institutions. Now, if you look at the number of students in schools, it is 240 million or 24 crore. Now compare it to the number of students in colleges. They are just 37 million or 3.7 crore, which means that only 1/6 of the students, they go from undergraduation to post-graduation for whatever reasons. Most reasons are economic. And also, another thing, in India, we have a midday meal scheme in schools, where not only meals, not only nutritious meals, but also school uniform, school bag, school books, textbooks, and the other teaching material is given free of cost. That is the reason why the enrollment in schools is much higher than in schools, than in colleges and universities. If India were to adopt that in schools and colleges and universities, then perhaps the enrollment ratio will automatically go up. But then that is heavy costs involved. So now let me come to the final part of this video editorial. what are the broad objectives of this NEP 2020, that is India's new education policy 2020. It aims at making the education system holistic, flexible, multidisciplinary, and aligned to the needs of the 21st century, the present times, and of course the 2030 Sustainable Developmental Goals, SDGs as they are known. So this in one sentence, this is the crux of the aim. And of course, NEP also aims to improve the GER ratio, as I said, from 26.3% in 2018 to 50% by 2035. Now, NEP also aims to increase public investments in education from the current 4.3% of the GDP to 6% of the GDP. This is more crucial. But unfortunately, the government has not given any deadline of doing so. Government has not given. This is the dark area of this policy, which I hope, if given the time, if this policy is properly thrashed out and discussed in Parliament in the upcoming session, it will be good for the country. And the government must ensure that a proper full-length discussion in Parliament and roping in the state governments in a big way. Now, last point is the Hindi versus English debate. Well, this new policy stipulates that up to class 5 and preferably up to class 8, the states will be free to use the local language as the medium of education. Now, this is something which will be lapped up by the non-Hindi speaking states, particularly down south. This raised suspicions whether this is a hit at the English medium or whether the government, the BJP government is roping in its saffron agenda, love for Hindi and all that, and imposing Hindi. Now, important clarification has come from the government that it is not so. All the states, this is not mandatory, that the use of local language or the regional language as the medium of education. So if a state government, whichever state government, if it wants to use English medium, if it wants to continue to stick to the English medium, it is free to do so. So friends, I hope you would have found this video editorial useful, and if you do, kindly subscribe to my channel, Rajiv Kishkinda. Thank you very much.